Hi, welcome to Great Goodness. I'm so glad you're here today. My partner Karen couldn't be here today, and I am sad about that, but I am thrilled to death to get to have this time with Leslie Jackson. And I know you're going to be excited to hear what Leslie has to share with us today. Um, like, comment, and subscribe. That's always good. We have lots of good guests coming, and you don't want to miss one. So if you're subscribed, that really helps. And if you like and comment and show Leslie the love, everyone appreciates that. So definitely do that. Um, so that was a pretty brief intro because we didn't have Karen to say hi, but we are still going to draw an oracle card. And I'll tell you, this deck is Herbal Astrology. I'll show you this book. My camera is not the best, but I don't know why. The Herbal Astrology, and it's by Adriana Ayala, and the artwork is by Josephine Clerks. I love this. I love this deck. I love, 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 love. I love this deck. It's because it has astrology and the herbs, and it just really speaks to me. And so I did get it at Hay House, just in case. And I'll post a picture of it on our Facebook too. And so we'll pick a card. Okay. Um, Echinacea and destiny is the word that comes with it. And I'll tell you, it's the number 30, and it's Jupiter and Mercury. And so, can you see this, Leslie?
I can.
Okay.
Oh, it's beautiful.
It is, isn't it? Can you see that there's a snake in it? It's
No,
the
I got some celestial things at the bottom.
yeah, it's the snake is the circle
It's
right
a,
here.
oh, oh, that's
Yeah.
interesting.
Isn't
Oh,
it?
interesting.
What makes
Yep.
that interesting to you? Do you want to share?
Oh, there's lots of interesting things in that actually.
Okay.
If you'd hold it up again for me,
Yeah.
it would be. So I love that it's in a cup, and to me, of course, the cup represents emotion and emotional presence. The snake is I feel like that is a symbol of infinity and evolving and becoming. I mean, I feel
Mm-hmm.
with this card also there seems to be a real sense of I want to say community with this card, and a sense of coming together, but not just with your people, but also with you know again your destiny is the destiny card. It feels like it's the alignment and the celestial references in there also, but it's an alignment of self through community
Mm-hmm.
and through emotion and connection.
Yeah, I really like that. And I agree. And because and it brings in Jupiter and Mercury, and Mercury, is about communication. And it's about a lot of things, but we'll just mention communication right now. So what we think about, how we communicate, who we communicate with, what we communicate about. And so that's how we connect and who we connect with. And and the destiny and the Jupiter makes that really expansive. And so I feel like the card is not just about this body destiny and you and I communicating, but communicating far beyond, like with our souls, with our spirits, with our beings, with our energy, with our energy. Yeah. Yeah. I love this card. Okay. See, I love that deck. It just talks to me. It's just the best. Okay. I'm gonna go ahead and read your bio. Um, Leslie Jackson is a nurse, registered Canadian Reflexology Therapist, Reiki Master teacher, and psychic medium. She creates and holds space for people to find clarity and alignment and to experience the truth of who they are, their destiny. Can I say that?
Yeah,
Is that
I think that's
appropriate?
perfect.
Okay. Um, Her desire is to guide others to a lived expression of self-love and wholeness. Yes, yes. Highly empathic and sensitive to spirit, Leslie grew up in an emotionally and sexually abusive household and built a wall around her sensitivities to protect herself. After earning a degree in nursing and later a certificate in project management, she worked for 30 years in Western medicine. The last 20 years as a research coordinator and project manager in cardiac sciences. Largely analytical, she operationalized interventional cardiology, electrophysiology, and heart failure research full-time while managing a very busy family schedule as a single mom. Leslie's awakening to the truth of who she was began in 2008 when her marriage of 18 years ended abruptly. She began a deep dive into personal development and expanded spiritual awareness, including a 6-day residential experience and the Hoffman process. In 2016, she was guided to Reiki. At the time, she didn't know how to pronounce it. I love that. Thank you. Then shamanism. With continued professional support to overcome limiting belief systems and trust issues, Leslie felt a growing certainty that she was not only able to read and understand people's energy and emotional framework, but she was also a medium. As she opened her heart and allowed herself to become more vulnerable, Leslie's communication with the unseen world and her trust in herself evolved and expanded. In 2019, she started offering energy sessions professionally. As she immersed herself in mediumship and continued psychic development, she took a tremendous leap of faith and left her job to invest in her growing business full-time in 2021. Now, in 2025, Leslie's passion is to inspire others. When working as an intuitive healer, coach, reflexology therapist, psychic, or medium, she reminds her clients that we're all energy, that energy follows thought, that life and love survive death, and that we're all on an incredible journey of the soul. She knows it's her purpose to create an expansive community. A self-proclaimed artist, mostly unafraid to color outside the lines, Leslie was first inspired to organize and bring people together while still in grade school. In her 20s, her passion for animals, coupled with her deep desire for a connection to the natural world, led her to find sanctuary on a beautiful, forested 40-acre property in the foothills of the Rocky Mountains, west of Calgary, Alberta, Canada. A place of self-nourishment, ceremony, and her sanctuary still. She shares her property and her love full-time with 2 horses and an 85-pound, nearly hairless dog. I'm, I'm going to have to ask a question about the dog. When not off exploring the world, their own lives and passions, Leslie's thrilled that her grown children still find their way home to her and the ranch. I mean, this is beautiful. And there's so many moments in this that you just, that life and love survive death.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, I just don't, where do we start with your practice? I'm going to start where I want to start, and then you can go where you want to go. Um, so shamanism, where does that fit in to your practice, and where did you study that? Share about what that is. People may not even know.
Absolutely. First of all, I just want to make one correction. So no grandchildren. It's my children that come home to me.
I'm
So
sorry.
that's
Grown
okay.
children. It's my accent. It's my,
Okay, so shamanism. Shamanism is, to me, a beautiful connection to Mother Earth. It's a connection, an understanding to the spirits of all things, knowing that we're led and guided by the natural world. And for me, this also came to me, in a very inspired way. And when I took my first class, I did take it with a shaman here in Calgary, and was exposed to the Peruvian medicine wheel and the beautiful teachings within it, really about connection, our lineage, spiritually, as well as our ancestors through this lifetime, and others, of course. And I also worked with a shaman in Peru, and I would say that the way that I bring shamanism into my work now is I do inspire others to follow and create their own ceremony. I feel ceremony and that place of gratitude when we kind of live and center ourselves in that. Um, really beautiful things flow. Really beautiful awarenesses come from it. Our connection to animals. And I live in the forest, and so my ability to connect with animals and to take a lot of um, understanding from the animals and from the things around me. And I'm not sure that all that came from shamanism, but it's certainly my connection to shamanism is the animal spirit. Um, I think that in all the meditations that I do with people, I also bring in Mother Earth energy to couple and intermingle and mix with our spiritual divine energy, the energy of God or universe, creator, however you want to phrase that, because it's the combining of the two that really um, aligns us in the most perfect way to present ourselves, hear our guides, and to kind of move forward in life.
So, with the shamanism, do you do any soul retrieval work?
I have done soul retrieval work, and I've also done some studying with medical intuition, which is kind of really soul retrieval, I believe termed a different way, how to help people go
That's
back to that
interesting.
inception point. Yeah. And really beautiful and powerful. Um, in shamanism, it's the shaman who will go and retrieve that soul fragment, which sounds really scary, I think, to some people who might not understand, soul retrieval and soul fragments. I think the first time that I heard that, I thought it was really disconcerting to think that a part of me wasn't with me.
Mhm.
And so in shamanism, it's a shaman that retrieves that soul piece and brings it back. It's with the understanding that in moments of trauma, we leave that part of us that is traumatized in that moment. Bringing it back to us is an important part of the healing and the understanding. And with shamanism, we bring a gift back with us also. In medical intuition and working with it in that way, it's a very the way I have practiced medical intuition is to guide my clients in the act of retrieving that soul piece, in the act of revisiting the moment of trauma and taking from it what is theirs to take and giving back what is not theirs, which was
Mm.
often left with them from the perpetrator of trauma. And so in that way, I find medical intuition to be an incredibly powerful centering place for the client, where they do the work more and have me be the guide.
So, okay. So I want to make sure because some people may not have ever even heard of soul retrieval when they're listening to this in either way. And so you did speak to it and define it. It's when there's a trauma of some kind, and the idea is that a piece of you, it to me, for me, because I've had this, I've done the soul retrieval with shamans, and I've done it on my own, because I I felt more comfortable actually on my own walking through it. Because I've been through so much abuse. And I feel like that's kind of part of what you were speaking to, maybe, like if you've been through a lot of abuse, and maybe even if you haven't, but you, well, I really needed and still need to feel like I can keep myself safe, you know? And so giving over too much to someone else, like, hey, you go do this, that was a lot for me. And I did it one time, and then I was like, oh, I already know how to do this. I know how to do this. And then I've done it for myself. But when we go through a trauma, for me, pieces of myself had fractured off, really in a as a means of self-preservation for me.
Yeah.
Yeah. And but but then there's a piece of me missing. That I'm not whole. Am I saying, like, is this the way you understand it, or do you have more to?
Absolutely. No, I think that, so again, I want to say that Gabor Mate, a Canadian physician who talks about trauma and compassionate inquiry, he really defines trauma not as the event that happens, but it's
Mm-hmm.
the person's experience of it. And I
Yes.
think that's really important because
Mm-hmm.
it's easy to judge what is trauma, but it's a truly individual experience. And with that, um, I would say that those soul fragments, those moments of trauma, and those pieces of us that we leave behind, what what they do is they have us cycling back through reactive patterning.
Mm-hmm.
So when we hit those moments in life that scratch that wound, um, we'll go back to a reactive way of dealing with it instead of perhaps a higher perspective way of
Mm-hmm.
managing. So
Yeah.
definitely really impacts us moving forward.
I really like that. And it reminds me, I like what you said too. I think this is really important. That trauma is a really personal experience. It's personal experience. It's that person's experience of it. And that, so in astrology, there's Chiron. I don't know if you've heard much about Chiron
I've
but
heard of it, and I couldn't tell you.
yeah. So it represents a wound. And it does, the natal chart sort of, it really tells a story of the Chiron wounds, which are a wound of betrayal and then, or a wound of rejection or betrayal, and then a bystander wound. So there's two wounds that come with that Chiron sign in your chart. And for some people, those wounds are what they're really extreme. They're wounds that anyone would name. That's a wound. But then for some people, it's, wounding can be, I broke my leg and couldn't go to school for 6 weeks and was isolated, which is wounding, to feel that isolation. And so I really like that space I feel like you were creating that space for different experiences when you were talking about it.
Yeah, absolutely. I feel that understanding people's wounding must be from a place of neutrality and
Mhm.
compassion, and again holding space for their experience.
And so I was going to ask you, what do you do to keep people or hold a safe space for people when you're doing this work with them, this really tender, vulnerable work? How do you do that?
I think primarily by showing up as who I am.
Hmm.
I think primarily it's by being vulnerable and allowing people to see the truth of who I am, and that I, I learned some time ago that um, it takes it takes courage to move into that place of speaking about things that happened in the past. Things are not palatable by the society that we live in, such as sexual abuse within families and these other things. And what I learned was that the courage of that I show in stepping into that place of being able to talk about it, and to talk about it without shame, to talk about it as things that happened to me, and that, from my framing of my life, I believe that these things have given me a gift of depth of understanding of other people's pain
Hmm.
and being able to meet them there. And so I believe through my vulnerability, other people are able to step into their vulnerability, and that creates a beautiful, safe container to work together.
Yeah, I would agree. I thought that even with your bio, um, you know, your bio shares some of your traumas and or some of your losses, some of your experiences, that just make you human and just part just that you're having this human experience and I thought there was so much vulnerability in your bio and I mean if you're willing to come across that way in this bio for this episode, how what sort of space you must offer to people in your practice, you know, just a wholehearted.
I hope so. I do. I hope
Yeah.
so.
Um, do you find, because you work in many different modalities, and I was wondering when I was reading this, like when clients come to you, are they signing up for one of those? Are they coming and saying, "Hey, this is what's on my mind," and you're making you are a project manager. So I imagine you're very good at figuring out how all the different little pieces would work together to help. Like, how does that work? What's the client experience?
I think that well, people come to me for all different reasons.
Hmm.
I am always, it's just so exciting when people. I feel a lot of people are guided to me and can describe pretty incredible experiences and how they found me. I think there, of course, is no accident when
Hmm.
and how we come together. I do. My clients that come to me for reflexology, so they understand who I am as much as they can from reading my website and understanding my journey that way. And I think a lot of them will come to me for reflexology because it is kind of a safe, I like to call it the gateway drug to energy medicine, because it's easily understandable. It feels safe. There's a bit of a distance. They're not really letting me. I don't work intuitively when I'm doing reflexology. But I work from a space of, as tender reflexes show up. So just for people who don't know, foot reflexology is all about working with many, many, many different reflexes on the soles of our feet that correspond to tissues, glands, and organs within our body. And so when there's a tender reflex, it's indicating that there's lots of energy being stored in one of these tissues, glands, or organs. And then so there's an opportunity for discussion, talk about what chakras involved, talk about, oftentimes what's going on. Sometimes, you know, how do you separate the intuitive from the intuition, really?
I
But
was wondering.
I just don't worry. It's not a deep dive and it's not a deeply intuitive
Mhm.
process. But I find that people are open to that, and it also creates a beautiful space for them to ask me more about the other things that I do, because for them to come to me, I think that generally speaking, they're interested in these other things that I do.
Mhm.
People come to me for so the Reiki. I do offer Reiki sessions, but they're intuitive healing sessions when people come to me. I work with spiritual healing also. So as a medium, I'm bringing in spiritual healers to work with with the client who's come. The intuitive piece is when I'm working and bringing a lot of awareness to really the emotional client, where my client is coming to me from an emotional perspective. So that's me working with their wounding perhaps and their maybe things that they're working through currently, obstacles that they're facing. I do work a lot with limiting beliefs, and that kind of segues into my coaching clients. So um, as a nurse and having worked in that field for many, many years, I do offer people intuitive coaching packages. So where they'll work with me with energy. So with the energy work that I do, I'm opening and holding that space for them, helping them to feel lighter, helping them to feel more able to consider things in from a new perspective. You know, I find that when people allow us to work together from that energy perspective, they're able to shift more quickly. They're able to kind of move into new understandings more easily. I can bring to them, the framing around the negative core beliefs that are operating in their lives, so that they can be
Mhm.
challenged and rewritten. Many of us don't understand or didn't know until we know. You don't know what you don't know,
Mhm.
right? We don't know that we can challenge those belief systems that were really given to us as very young
Mhm.
people, and that continue to run and rule our lives in ways that don't serve us. And so it's a powerful place when people start to work in these ways.
Yeah. Now, I wanted to define chakras, and I also wanted to find out about, I know with the reflexology, your clients are probably coming in person, but are they all coming in person for everything that you offer? Or do you
Not
have
for
any?
everything that I offer.
Okay.
Reflexology must be done in person.
Mm-hmm.
Reiki or the intuitive healing side and coaching can be done in person. Many people prefer in person if they live within the area, but I do those. I do intuitive healing and I do coaching online also.
Mm-hmm. So, okay. So I I was so surprised how much you can heal. I guess I shouldn't have been because well, I was a massage therapist and I work as a healer and so I can relate to a lot of what you're talking about and I guess I knew because I could heal when someone wasn't there, but but it was Zoom then made or whatever method you're using, Google Meet, Zoom, whatever, but virtual made it so that a person can be there even when they aren't there. And I'm always amazed at how powerful the connection can be through virtual means. Have you found that to be true? That's just as effective for you? And
But
yeah,
there's no difference. I mean,
yeah.
and mediumship is often done online, so are psychic readings or soul readings
Mm-hmm.
types of things. And there's no difference. So when I'm connecting to somebody, for me, I experience things. I'm clairvoyant, so I see,
Mm-hmm.
feel, I know, like many. Um, but it's exactly that moment of connection is exactly the same for me.
Mm-hmm. Isn't it tremendous?
It's beautiful, and I think that that's one gift that COVID really gave us. I
Mm-hmm.
think that that shift to understanding that that it can be done online. It's opened up a lot of opportunity for people to maybe have readings with people that they wouldn't have otherwise had the opportunity to have a reading
Right.
with. So you really can shop for that person because I do think that we all read and communicate what we receive in very different ways. And so I think that there's very much an alignment between who somebody might really benefit getting a reading from.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so can we talk about mediumship a little bit, especially in these terms? Okay, because I find this really fascinating about mediumship, and I think the people who come through us we usually they will choose someone to come through who maybe will understand understand what they're showing, understand what they're bringing, and I think that's so interesting, and it speaks to um, there being a need for so many different mediums. Like mediums don't all look the same. They aren't all from the same space because neither are the spirit. And so and I think it's so interesting though when you work with when I've received readings and when I've given them my language for something would be so different from someone else's. And that sometimes it's almost like speaking a different language. I don't know.
Yeah.
Uh, do you want to talk about your mediumship some? Do you use
Sure.
this with your clients or is this a whole separate? I feel like it would go together.
Well, I don't. So when I'm coaching, I'm tuned in intuitively,
Mm-hmm.
and intuitive healing is highly intuitive.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I don't bring mediumship into my healing, and I don't bring mediumship into the coaching because I feel that they're separate.
Okay.
With me, be a very rare exception. Um, the mediumship, the way I receive information, like I said, is I see them. I actually receive them in sight first,
Mm-hmm.
um,
Mm-hmm.
and often will receive their personality this way. I'm highly clairsentient, so they're able to communicate emotion, and really they give me a lot of information through my understanding. I think what happens with all mediums is we kind of just develop a glossary of understanding between us and spirit and how they know that they can work with me. Clairaudience and claircognizance is that flow of thought, so it's like almost like a telepathic way of receiving. And so that absolutely is in play um, when I'm communicating with spirit. I would say that as a medium, I'm very much utilized by spirit for emotional context because of the work that I think I've done personally in my growth and development through my traumas and healings and understandings of all of these things. Spirit very much uses me. Once they're identified, they want to say what they've come to say. So I don't get in their way. I let them open up and use me as their voice. And to do that, they want to talk about the emotional context of their life. Sometimes because now they understand it much differently now that they've passed than from when they were here. And so they want to explain to the recipient, to the client sitting across from me, perhaps some of the reasons that they understood things the way they did and the reasons that they did the things they did. Very often there's apologies, very often there's always love, there's always compassion.
Mhm.
And in my experience, then the loved one in spirit wants to talk about my client's life, and they want to talk about it in an emotional context. They want to talk about how my client is managing these things from that emotional place. What the obstacles are, that as my the loved one in spirit understands them, what the encouragements are, how they can support them moving forward because they're here in support.
Yeah. And I guess that's why to me I feel like the healing work that you're doing and the intuitive and the coaching and the intuitive healing work, I feel like the mediumship is also healing. Um,
Very much. I think people
yeah,
leave lighter. They leave with
yeah.
a sense of connection. They leave with that. If they didn't already have a certainty that we go on,
Mhm.
that they leave with those things, which is beautiful.
Yeah. So, um, where do we find you? You have a website?
I do have a website. Yeah. Um, www.gracefulhealing.net.
Okay, and that'll be down below. That'll also be down below. So it'll be easy to find. And so you you mentioned animals more than one time. Um, and so I actually lived in North Idaho for 15 years, and we went to BC a lot. In Canada, I've never been to where you are, but I've been to BC a lot and to Luciere Hot Springs and places like that. And it's stunning. It's just stunning. Yeah. And so I wondered, when you're bringing up animals, what are you really bringing up? Like, what are you really wanting to talk? Can you talk more about your relationship with animals and how that shows up in your life? I feel like that animals are really central to you or like really, and so I wanted to hear you talk more about it.
For sure. I think I've had a lot of animals. Honestly, I wasn't allowed to have animals as a child, but the moment I was out of the door, really, I started collecting animals. Animals are highly empathic. They really
Hmm.
are tuned into us at such a beautiful level. Um, the joy and the connection and the love and even the emotional balance that they bring through the touch that we can share with them. Horses are terrific um, barometer of what's going on inside of a human being. They read us instantaneously, and so if we're anxious or we're caught up in our head and we're doing all of our brain laundry, they are the ones that kind of bring us back down, because the way to effectively work with a horse is to be from that really grounded centered place in the heart space. They require us to be in a heart space. I see horses as being a tremendous partnership. Same as with dogs and cats, but in a much different way, because we're trusting each other. We're trusting each other. Jumped when I was younger, like jumped horses, and that's a tremendously trusting relationship, and it taught me so much about um, you know, where I'm at and how I communicate that. The other animals in my life are, I really do see them as they're gifts when they show up to me. You know, there's fox that comes around and a bear, and there's cougar in the area, bobcat, you know, um, so many things. Um, the birds, you know, I have a lot of owls that come through. And when they come through, very often I have conversations with my guides, and I have understandings with my guides about what different um, spirit animals mean to me. And very often it's an answer to some of my questions. And so they bring me information. And for me, Angela, I have to say that my connection, I feel that when I moved out to this property, I think this property helped me to navigate these last, 30 years of my life in a way that I don't know that I would have been able to navigate it otherwise. It's that just that beautiful connection, separation, the energy that the land brings me. So I hope that answers your question. I'm not sure if I kind of skirted around it.
No, it does. And something I actually was going to ask you a little more about is like when you when you see an animal, and you talked about it for a minute about spirit animals and about asking your guides like about those animals. So because I was going to ask you, so when you see a fox, what what does that mean to you? How does that resonate with you? When you see an owl, how does that resonate with you? Is it different every time for you or?
It can be different, and it can be different. Eagle is another one that's very important to me.
Hmm.
And so some of the animals that my spirit guides really talk to me through are owl. Owl is often,
Hmm.
to me, and raven. Owl and raven are very much communicators across the veil.
Hmm.
So from this human experience to going home, our life in spirit. And so how they talk to me, and like ravens are, actually owls are too. They have a tremendous vocabulary in how they use their voices. Um, Mediumship and the owl tend to be very, very connected. And so when I'm working on my mediumship, and I believe that mediumship is not a stagnant experience or a static experience. It is very dynamic and ever evolving and ever changing. And when we're, you know, I think that the greatest personal development that I've done is probably as I've been developing as a medium, that, I'm continually
Mm.
being challenged to reevaluate my view of the world and myself, so that I can expand and open and again be more vulnerable and be more neutral. And owl often will show up to remind me, of what I'm working on. Eagle for me is all about high perspective, and I do believe that perspective is very much a part of where my work kind of fits in the world. That high perspective of understanding all things, not focusing on events and moments, but often it's that greater picture that brings
Mhm.
us, peace, and allows us to take that step back and surrender to that flow. And so those are examples of how they
Yeah,
speak to me.
that was really great. And so I have to I want to ask you something. Well, the card that came was Destiny, right? And we're talking about the higher picture. And so w- when we look back, when I look back at my life, when you look back at your life, especially given where you have come to, this place of healer, you are a healer. I can call you that, right? Okay. Um, does this feel like this was the life you came here to live to get to this place? And is that a sense of peace in some way?
So to me, you're speaking about the soul journey
Mm-hmm.
and talking about life plan and life map and these other things.
Mm-hmm.
And with that, I do absolutely believe that we create the template of our life before we come with the understanding of those challenges and woundings that we'll experience with the higher purpose in mind. And if I were to look at my mediumship, even any of this development, because really it happened for me later in life, and I feel that the reason my awakening happened for me later in life is because I needed to. I have I have needed to heal so many different parts of myself. I've had to, you know, and I think that was part of my first invitation was, these are invitations. We have free choice. We don't need to step into the healing. But as I stepped into the healing, these other things opened up for me, and I do believe that I am here to um, help people remove shame from these experiences that happen to them, and to really move into a place of power. And you know, and ultimately, I think that most of us, what our goal is as human beings is to experience self love and compassion. I actually think that's the hardest thing. That is the
Yes.
most challenging lesson for all of us.
Yes. Yes, I think it is. And it will never stop astonishing me. Uh, the most beautiful, filled with love, generous people I see who struggle to have self-love and compassion. It's a very it's not an easy place to get to. Um, and I think that's so interesting you're talking about. I'm crying. That's just um it's a lot of energy. I mean, the things we're talking about, like, and I really feel them deeply. And but I thought I wanted to go back to something that you said about uh vulnerability again with mediumship. So vulnerability has come up a lot, right? I mean, it's come up in your bio, it's come up as we've talked. And I think vulnerability, I feel like, and I'm curious how you feel, but vulnerability feels like to me it is it's almost necessary to get to that place of self-love and compassion. Like we have to, even if it's being vulnerable to ourselves, there has to be an acknowledgement of what's happened, or maybe what's happened isn't right. I should let you talk. What do you think?
Well, what I would say about vulnerability and self love is, I think that, um, you know, how I work with people often is about, there's no time and space. So
Mhm.
every moment of us lives in this moment. So all of our inner children, all of those parts of us, all of those soul fragments, now and moving forward, exist in this moment. And when I'm working with people with self love, I often will encourage them to go back to that part of them that calls to them, and to have a shared experience of conversation and love for that part of themselves. Um, Vulnerability plays into this, um, when we hold ourselves accountable in ways that we don't hold others accountable. We hold ourselves often from a place of self punishment, of not being enough, and this
Mm,
greatly ties into those negative core beliefs that we kind of touched on earlier in the discussion. These beliefs of ourself that we carry with us. My most damaging negative core belief was that I am damaged, that there's something innately wrong with me. This always brings up emotion for me.
mhm,
But that there's something wrong with me for all of these things to have happened that I've experienced in my life. And so when we move to that place of acknowledging this is how we hold ourselves with that understanding of ourselves, then we have the opportunity to challenge it. Is that true? And the truth is, it's not true. I'm a divine light of God. I'm here, um, to show up. I'm here to show up and hold space for others so that they can show up for themselves also. So I think that's how vulnerability plays into this for us. It's about our ability to see ourselves as we are without judgment. And I think that is where love for self is born. And it's our job to continuously nurture and grow that, so that we can then give it and expand it out to others. Sorry,
Yes.
no, I'm crying.
Well, you didn't want to leave me alone. I'm sorry, I'm still crying. It's like you can see it in my throat. It's because I'm so much, because I just we're coming to the end of our time, but it this actually like I'm constantly unlearning, and replacing and like learning to love myself. And I think just the other day, my we were working out. My husband complimented me. You're strong. You look so strong, or something. I don't know. It was really nice, and I was like, yeah. And this is what I always say when yeah, but because it's never enough. I'm never enough. I've never worked hard enough. I've never done enough, And I was like, and I just sat down on the box and was like, oh my gosh, when am I going to receive love? When am I going to receive that compliment? When am I going to feel like, yes, I am enough. Yes, I am. I am. Like, and I was like, okay, so that's my most recent one. It's not the first and not the last.
And it won't be the last, because I think we will be challenged. That's why we're here. This is
Yeah.
part of evolution of the soul. And when we're challenged, though, we get quicker at going to that moment, saying, "What's going on? Oh, it's that old belief."
Hmm.
Take that breath and connect to that heart space and to reaffirm what's true.
Yeah. And one of the things I think that is so powerful about the work that you do and about so I'm an astrologer, and one of the reasons I'm drawn to that is because it's something that you've been talking about. There is a peace for me if I can look at my chart and say, I came in to do this work. I came in, I have, and it's why I feel like I've been able to survive sexual abuse and love again and be vulnerable again. And I came in with the tools that were going to allow me to make it through these challenges that I agreed to go through in order to grow in the way that I need to grow. And so having that sense of destiny and that higher perspective has given me a tremendous peace, which is exactly what you talk about and offer. Yeah.
And I think just to take that one kind of summary, is what I would say is that it removes us, or help encourages us to step away from victimization,
Mm-hmm.
which is that place of things happening to us,
Mm-hmm.
and moves us to that place of saying, well, I chose this, therefore I know I'm strong enough to, right, surmount this.
I love that. I love that. I really like that. Okay. Well, I really went over time, but but I enjoyed being with you so much I didn't want to stop, and there's so much more to talk about, but I know we have to draw it to an end. I thank you so much for being here, so much for sharing your practice, and all the information will be below so people can reach out to you and make contact with you. And this was tremendously valuable. Um my soul feels if I feel so good and hopeful. So hopeful. Yeah. Thank you, Leslie. Um I will I will do a prompt. It's not a prompt. It's a this is what I think that what you gave us today is really a lot to think about and to go into. And so I don't want to put anyone in a situation that they're not not ready to handle. But if you are, if you want, if you want to do this work is available, I think, for all of us to do. Like we can, you can, you can do a meditation, you can write, you can dance, you can draw. Um, when you are drawing something or making art, if you're using both your right and left hands, so you can do that what I'm about to say in many different ways, but care for yourself through all of it. And I think if you try this, then you're probably ready to try this. So I would say this is what I offer after listening to Leslie. So root in to the core of the earth and connect up to source or a higher power. There's a place you'll feel a cord draw you up, and you'll feel longer, and you'll feel full of the energy, the light coming from the core of the earth and coming from source. And take your attention into the core of your body and begin to breathe there. And you can assign it a color. You can you can just see it. A lot of times when I see breath, it looks like glitter. And just watch that area expand. The energy will expand far beyond your core. And be there and breathe into there. And let what comes up come up for you. You don't have to hold on to it or judge it or catch it. You can let it come up and you can let it come out. You can let go of what no longer serves you. And you may hear some of those voices and some of those words that we shared today that we have heard. And they're coming up for you to let them go. And it may be a process, but this may be the start of that process. And you can spend as much time here or as little time here as is right for you. And when you're ready, you can just return your breathing to normal, return your focus to natural. And that space is always there for you to go to. And so, yes, thank you so much. I really enjoyed being here with you today.
Well, thank you. I have immensely enjoyed this conversation. So thank you.
Yay. Yay. I hope it won't be our last. I hope to talk to you many more times. Thank you, Leslie. Have a great day.